When we point out the similarities between what is happening in America in 2025 and what happened in Germany in the 30s and 40s, it's not an exaggeration, okay? The steps that are happening, the events that are occurring, the escalation that's happening is very similar. I talk about the 100-year cycle. Think about what was going on 100 years ago, right? 100 years ago was 1925. We were beginning to see pockets of fascism rise in Europe. We were steamrolling towards a Great Depression here in the United States of America. And by 1929, we had that Great Depression. And then we then entered into a period of time where we were trying to pull ourselves out of the Great Recession and then entering into an era where fascism was taking a stronger hold. We're sort of seeing the same shit happen now, except the fascism is taking hold here in the United States of America. And it doesn't just happen, right? There are steps, it's incremental, that get you to a point where you wake up one day and you have a dictatorship. Just listen to this and put together the parallels between what you're listening to, which is factual historical information, and what you're seeing right now in the United States of America in 2025.
In 1923, Adolf Hitler led a coup against the German government that ended up being called the Beer Hall Putsch. He was tried and convicted for this, became a felon, which he claimed was a political move from the Socialist Democrats, and he started a campaign about how he was for the working German and how educators were poisoning German minds against Germany and that he was going to make Germany great again. And he became chancellor on January 30th of 1933. He promptly forgave all the people who participated in his Beer Hall Putsch, giving them medals of honor, and then started prosecuting, persecuting, and killing all of the law enforcement who resisted his coup. By April 7th of 1933, he passed what was called the Law for the Restoration of Public Service, which rolled back work protections, allowing all public service to discriminate against women and people of color, and only people who were of Aryan descent who pledged loyalty to Hitler could work in public service. Now, he was able to control the government by making oligarchs part of his head of government, and he demonized minorities, saying it's us versus them. He chose the Jews because they were a relatively small minority, and the LGBTQ community, which was thriving in Germany in the 1920s, include having the first trans surgical clinic that the Nazis burned to the ground. They also banned and burned any books that they considered degenerative or immoral, which just means that they acknowledged that gay people and trans people are real and talked about their experiences. They also burned and canceled any book that discussed classism. Within the first year, he was able to roll back civil liberties basically entirely, and because he felt that manhood was under attack from these independent German women, protections for women were rolled back in the public sphere, especially reproductive rights, and doctors who administered abortions could get the death penalty. Women were told your life is your country, your family, and your home, and very shortly after that, laws were passed to restrict women to simply life in the home, because obviously men don't want to compete against women in the public sphere, and members of the LGBTQ community, in addition to being demonized the same way that the Jews were packed up and shipped to concentration camps, especially gay men, since it was thought that lesbians could be forced to reproduce. And I say all that to say that then the German army was militarized against the German people and anyone who decided to do the right thing and protect these minority groups.
Sound familiar? We're in the 100-year cycle. Pay attention. What we're seeing happening now is what we began to see happen 100 years ago and 100 years before that. Fascism comes back. Bad economic times and fascism keep coming back in a 100-year loop, and we're in the 100-year loop. We're right there. And we're seeing it unfold. And when I say pay attention, we should all be paying attention, but who should especially be paying attention are the younger generations. Baby boomers are on their way out, right? They got one foot in the grave and another on a fucking banana peel. My generation, Gen X, well, we got a little bit of time left. We're entering into our golden years. The ones who are truly going to have to fight for their independence this time around are the millennials, the Gen Zers, and the Gen Alphas, because these are the generations that are going to have the long-term effects of fascism taking hold in the United States of America. We're in the 100-year cycle. The next 20 years are going to be fucking nuts. The next 10 to 15 years are going to be fucking nuts. And if it follows the suit of the last 200 years in 100-year increments, then Lord knows what it's going to take.